Consulting's webinar series. This is part of our Mitchell University. Today we're going to talk about SAP Business One and the approval procedures. We're going to be recording this webinar. This will be available on our website, so you can view it at www.mitchellgroup.com. So today we're going to start with the approval procedures, how to set them up, and how it works. So what I did now is I'm actually logged into SAP Business One in 2 sessions. You can see I'm logged in here as Jason, who's the manager, and I'm also logged in as Sophie, who's a sales employee. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a simple approval procedure, and then we'll show how to set them up and actually how to do some complicated ones using queries. The approval procedure in SAP, what it will do is it will actually stop a specific workflow. One of the things that SAP talks about is to be proactive versus reactive. What happens with a lot of companies and businesses, there's an issue or a mistake, and it's not called till later on. What happens is somebody happens to look at the managers look at the financial statements 2 months later, and they realize that they lost money. But now it's too late because the product's already been shipped, and so on. So what SAP allows us to do is to create an approval procedure. An approval procedure will actually stop a workflow. You won't lose any data. The data will be saved in draft form, and then the document will have to be approved to continue on. So today we're going to do a simple one. We have an approval procedure that when I enter a sales order, the discount can't be greater than 3%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in here as Sophie. I'm going to go ahead and go to Sales and AR, go to Sales Order, and we're going to create a sales order. I'm going to grab a couple items here, and we're going to do an order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the discount. Let's say I meant to give it 3%, but I accidentally hit 33. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to type that, and I'm going to add the document. What you notice here is that now the approval procedure has kicked in. What happens is the document's going to be stopped, allowing the user to let them know something's going on. So you can see the authorization template called Sales Order Discount. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to enter a note. Say please approve. I'm going to click OK. So our sales order screen is clean. We can go and enter our next sales order. What I did is the sales order did not get deleted. It's sitting in a draft mode, so we can come back. But what I did is I stopped the process because now I have to get authorization. So again, in real time, I'm going to go back to the other person here. Here I'm logged in as Jason, and you can see that Jason has an alert. Request for document approval. I click on that. You can see the request for document approval, and it came from the user, Sophie. You can see down here the message, and we can now open up the template. And again, we're going to go into this in detail, but you can see the actual document number is here. If I open it, the document is still here. Okay, nothing got erased. It's in a draft pending mode. So, okay, we can look at the templates, which will show you how to set up. And we can look at the stages. I'm having a little trouble with the mouse. Okay, so we're going to go, we can click here. We have a decision to make. We can leave it pending. We can approve it, and we can not approve it. We're going to go ahead and approve it. Send a note back to Sophie. I'm going to click Update. Click OK. Now, if we go back to Sophie, again, in real time, you can see Sophie got an alert. The document generation has been approved. So now Sophie can look at it. She can click on it. She can open up the document, and you can see now the status is no longer pending. It's approved, and we can add the document. Okay, so let's see how we set that up. Let's close this. Let's go back to Jason, the manager, and let's talk about the approval procedures. So I'm going to go Administration, Approval Procedures, and the first thing we do is we set the stage. The approval stages are determined on how you want to approve and who's going to approve. The nice thing about the approval stage is you can actually build a series of stages. So, for example, you can have, if an AP document is entered, first it has to be approved by, let's say, the AP manager. And once the AP manager approves it, then it has to be approved by the controller, which would be on a separate stage. Once that's done, it would be approved by, again, a manager. So you can have multiple stages. What the stage allows you to do is the people who are authorized to do the approval. So in this case, we have Jason who's authorized to do it. But we can have many. We can say, for example, if Jason happens to be out on vacation or not available, we can add more people here. So we can say, let's just grab these people. So you can say, in this case, the number of approvals required is 1. That means one of these people must approve it. So either Jason, Donna, or Christine can approve it. I can also put 2 here. So what I'm saying is 2 of the 3 have to approve it. Or again, I can put all 3. So if we want to set this up, typically you want to have at least 2 authorizers and have 1 approve. This is for if someone's out of the office or on vacation, we have a backup. So we can set that up. And again, we can have many stages. Just cancel that. So again, you look at some of the stages. So in this case, we have for AP invoices a stage. We have for inventory, our sales, and so on. So we create our stages. Then we go to the approval templates. And this is where the setup actually comes into play. So let me call up the one that I did, which was the sales order discount. There's 4 tabs. The first tab is the originator. This is the person or the user that's going to be part of the approval procedure. So in this case, I have 5 salespeople. You can see they're in the sales department. So if any of these people enter the documents, they're part of the approval procedure. So in this case, if Bill, Sophie, Brad, Kim, or Michael enter a sales order, or every document I specify, they're triggered in the approval procedure. So me as the manager, I can go ahead and enter a document, and I'm not part of the approval procedure. The second phase is the documents. Okay, when we talk about documents, we can set approval procedures for sales and AR documents, such as quotations, sales orders, deliveries, and so on. We can do purchase documents. We can also do inventory documents, transfers, transfer requests, goods received, goods issued. And we can also do on and outgoing payment. In this case, I've only chose one document. So I said the sales order. Here I choose the stage. And again, I just have one stage. But I could, as I said before, if I tab, I can actually put 2 stages. What this means is that the first stage, sales, will have to approve it. And again, if we notice somebody from the sales that we have set up here, in this case, 1 has to approve it. But if we had the 3, 2 of the 3 have to approve it. Once that stage is completed, it would go to the next stage, and so on. So you can have multiple levels on the stages. Here we just have the sales stage. The following is the terms, right? And there's some out-of-the-box terms, okay? There's an always, and I'm going to go through all 3 of these. Always means that no, whatever is done, it will be actually, doesn't matter condition. It's going to be an always. Here we said when the following applies. And we have some out of the box from SAP, and we can also create a query. We'll go through after this, we'll actually go through creating a query. A query would be a unique condition that I set that I want to trigger an approval procedure. So here we just said, again, we have gross profit, discounts, and so on. So we just chose a simple discount, and we chose here, or it's greater than or equal to the value 3%. So we can do this with credit limits, with commitments on inventory. We can do gross profit, which is a popular one. If the gross profit is less than 15%, I'm going to stop the order. Again, we can deviate from budget, and we can actually look at total documents. We can also add a query, which we'll show you in a little bit how to do that. So that's how the system works. So what we're doing is we're saying that for this template, the originators are all of these. These are the documents that are involved. Okay? These are the stages, and these are the terms. So that's one way of doing it. Let me just see if I created this one here. We also have an AP invoice. Right? Now, the AP invoice is always. So what's happening here is, again, I have my originator. This is Sophie. The document here, you can see I chose AP invoice. And I'm using my stage here, AP invoice. I'm just using my same login and the terms. Always means every time I enter an AP invoice, it's always going to go on hold. This is good because what happens is you may have somebody in the accounting department who's entering. You want them to enter the AP invoices, but you want them to save as draft because you want to verify them. So in case they make a mistake and add, they'll be saved as draft. So let's take a look at that one real quick. So let's go back to Sophie. Let's go to purchases, and let's enter an AP invoice. Let's select our vendor, our invoice number, put our corresponding dates. So what we can do is part of the standard SAP, if you notice, if I click Add now, I'm going to actually be adding this AP document to the system. I could go here and do File, Save as a Draft. Again, it'll be stored as a draft, so I can come back and check it and look at it. So in this case, and I actually did this for one of our clients, because they want to make sure a clerical person was doing the entries, and then they wanted somebody, a manager, to make sure they were okay before they added it. Because if I press Add right now by mistake, and I forget to go File, again, you can see it. Here it is. Be active. Catch any mistakes, fix anything, and open this one up. Okay, so now I have something called item code. Again, I have my originator using Sophie. Okay, so let's just cancel that. So what I would do is I would write my queries, and then I would save my queries, and then add the queries on here. And again, you can see that using that query. So let's go in, and let's go back to Sophie. Go to Sales and AR, and let's create a delivery. I'm going to grab item A001 and A002. Same thing. I'm going to go to add this delivery. And again, I have this because I met my criteria of my query. My query says if I have item A001 on line 1 and A0002, if that condition holds true, then I'm stopping it. So the same thing. I have my item code. Click OK, and again, it's saved in a draft form. So I go back here, and again, I have my request for documents, and you can see it here. And again, we can open up, and we're doing the same thing. So we're looking at our template. So the approval procedure then, as you can tell, is actually stopping the workflow. So again, you can do it based on out-of-the-box conditions from SAP, like if a discount is greater than a certain amount, if the gross profit is greater than a certain amount, if the credit limit, and so on. You can also do an as always. So let's look at those. Again, we can do an always. So in the case of my AP, every time I enter an AP invoice, I always want to activate the approval procedure regardless of any condition, so it's always going to go. I can do when the following applies. And again, I have some preset stuff, deviation from credit limit, commitment, gross profit, and so on. I can set my how I want to define this, if it's equal to, greater than, and so on. Or I can actually create a query and tie it to a specific query. In this case, I'm using a query. So let's look at now, there's two reports that we look at. So as we discussed, we show the stage and template, and now we have the status report. And the status report is really for the originator to use. I mean, the manager can use it too, but this is kind of an originator to see what's going on. So maybe Sophie is a salesperson. She's curious to see how many things she has pending. So again, you can look at the document status. We can look at just pending. So we'll look at the originator, Sophie, and the sales order. So if I click this, you can see I have 2 pending. If I expand, I can see here I have the sales orders, and you can see the draft numbers in the background. They're being stored, okay, because the invoices are not lost. They're in a draft mode, so I can open it. Again, you can see it's pending. And you can see the status is draft. So I'm not going to lose any of the data. But this is what's pending. And again, this is something maybe the user, the originator will do to see it. If I want to look at, I can look at, again, everything here. And again, I can choose a variety from a range of originators, the authorizers, which would be part of the stages, certain templates, and so on. I have a lot of flexibility in how I want to run this report and what documents I want to use. I have all the sales and AR documents. I have all the purchase and AP documents. And I have the inventory documents and the outgoing payment. So we click OK. And again, we can see the statuses. Now we're looking at generated, pendings, approved. We're looking at everything here. If we expand, again, we can just look at more information. We can see the originators. We can see the templates involved. And we can see the remarks. Okay, that was the approval status report. The approval decision report, this is really more of the management side of it, because I, as the manager, I want to see what's going on. I want to see, again, I have my options. No decision yet. I mean, I just kind of left them there. Documents that have been approved and documents that have not been approved. So again, as you saw before, I had that option in the approvals. Let's call that up real quick. That one's already approved, so I won't be able to open it. But what you have is, again, when you go into the approval, you have the option of leaving it pending. So you want to come back to it later, approving it, and not approving it. So my decision report, so that's what I have. So I can have pending, what I've approved, and what I've not approved. And again, I have the flexibility of doing my originators, the authorizers. Again, if I'm the manager and I was out and I come in as Jason, I want to basically look at stuff that's waiting for me. I can do templates and dates. So if I click here, again, you see I have a report here. And you can see I have some AP invoices. You can see, again, the answers to the questions. We have pending, approved, and not approved. We can also do it through here instead of doing one at a time. Again, SAP works in real time, so you're seeing that as I'm running the, when Sophie's actually entering it and it goes in approval, it immediately comes to the manager or the person who's the authorizer. So I can do it in real time, but sometimes I may want to do it here. So again, I can look at all my AP invoices, my sales orders, and so on. So maybe I want to go here that delivery was pending. So I want to look at my report, and I can actually approve it right here. So I'm doing the approval here, so I can kind of do it in a global sense. Again, this is a decision report for the manager. I mean, I'm going to look at all this and approve it. I click Update. The delivery has now been approved. If we go back to Sophie, we should see on the alerts the delivery. You can see now it generated the approval. So again, you can do it in real time as they come across through the message system, or you can come into the reports and you can do it this way. So in this case, I had a lot of these, I would probably just do that. So I come in and I say, okay, this is what needs to be done. Again, I would look at it. I can look at the documents involved, and I can go ahead and approve it. So again, to recap, we looked at the approval procedure process in SAP Business One. The approval procedure allows you to be proactive versus reactive. Again, what we're doing is we're stopping a specific workflow based on a set of conditions. All right, in this case, we want to make sure, because what happens is we don't want our salespeople giving too high of a discount and not catching it until 2 months later. We have to look at the financials and we're losing money. So again, we can do it this way within the system. So you set up the approval stages. These stages are basically who is going to approve. You can have one approval stage, or at least one approval stage for the approval procedure, but you can have many. So in the case of, you may have it where first the document must be approved by, let's say, the manager of the department, and after he approves it, it goes to the second stage, which is the controller, and then they have to approve it, and then it goes to the third stage, which is, say, a vice president. So you can have those stages. Within the stages, you can assign basically who is authorized to approve. So you can add as many as you want, and the number of approvals required determines. So typically what I do when I set this up, I make the number of approvals required 1, and I put at least 2 authorizers. Again, I put the main person and the backup. In that case, if Jason's out and this needs to be approved right away, the second person can take over. The approval templates is where we do the entire setup. So again, here we talk about the originators. In this case, since it's a sales order discount, I have all the users that are in the sales department are going to be part of this. Documents that are involved, and I can have multiple documents if I wish. Okay, because I may want to do this not only on the sales order, I may want to do it on the quote and on the AR invoice. So I can have multiple documents. I can also do it on purchase orders. The stages, okay, we select our stages here. Again, we're using that one. And finally, the terms. We'll always trigger the approval process regardless of the conditions. So in the case of every time an AP invoice is entered, I don't want it to be added until I check it, so I set the AP invoice to always. So every time I try to add an AP invoice, it will always go into the approval process. I can also do when the following applies. So I have some out-of-the-box conditions. In this one, I have the discount percent greater than or equal to 3. So if I put in anything over 3, it's going to trigger it. I can also do it on a query. So in this case, my item code, I created a unique query that I said that when a delivery is done, and if I put item 1 and item 2 together on the delivery, I trigger the approval process. Then we have our 2 reports. We have our status report, and this is typically for the originator to look at, but again, everybody can look at. In this case, Sophie wants to see what's going on. She wants to see everything. So if I go here, Sophie can look at all her orders if she expands it. Sophie can see what's been generated, what's been approved, what's pending, and so on. It gives Sophie the opportunity as a salesperson to do that. And then I have my approval decision report. And this is typically for the approval or the management side of the report. I want to see what is not approved, what's still pending for Sophie. And again, I can see them right here. And this is a global way of approving. I could actually go here and approve. So I can just go through the list. So if I have 5 sales orders or 2 sales orders, and I want to just go ahead and approve them to get the process going, I can just go ahead and approve everything. Once I approve and click update, they'll be approved. So again, that concludes our series today. We talked about the SAP Business One approval procedures. I'll open it up for questions. Do we have any questions? Oh, no questions. I guess everybody knows how to do approval procedures now. Okay. Once again, I thank you for your time. This is part of Mitchell Consulting's Mitchell University. This webinar has been recorded. This was SAP Business One's approval procedures. This will be available on our website. You can visit our website at www.mitchellgroup.com and you can view it.